Welcome back to the Sci-Fireplace. I have on my lap here a big banker's box that's full of books. This is one of about 5 or 6 of these boxes worth of books that I have. I just pulled out a few titles to show off to you. Let's start with the ones that I'm keeping for myself. I'm doing a 100-book challenge. I'm not keeping everything that I get. This is a book called The Traveler in Black by John Brunner. This is a Dying Earth book. This is written in the style of a Michael Moorcock or a Jack Vance. Apparently, this is what the internet tells me, and I'm all for it. Not a super common book, I don't think. Slightly mixed reviews, apparently. It's not quite at the same level of Vance, although he attempted to stick the landing and write in the same style. Similar universe. I can't really resist it. I feel too bad passing on this, so this is probably going to stick with me. I may put this up for sale. This one I'm probably going to keep, The Voices of Time by J.G. Ballard. I have a couple of these short story collections. He's most famous for his novels, and I haven't read nearly enough of him. I've only read Crystal World. But people say that he should be better known for his short fiction, and that is where his real strength is. And this is a slightly beat up, but, you know, appealing vintage copy. So I think I'm going to keep that one too. Jack Vance, 2 titles that I'm not familiar with, and this is an ace double. So this side is Son of the Tree. This side is The Houses of Ism. I don't know if these are juveniles or just earlier works or what. They're not his more famous stories, but I kind of have, I guess, made the resolution that just crystallized in my head just now that I would like to have all of Jack Vance's books. So this is one that I don't have, or 2 that I don't have. And then the one that I'm really, really pumped on is, it finally came back to me, Feast Unknown by Philip Jose Farmer. This is a notorious book, one of his better known books. It was published, I think, in Playboy or Penthouse or something. It's science fiction erotica. It's apparently extremely violent and weird. And I had a copy of this. I found a really fairly pristine copy of this before I knew what it was, and I sent it to Moyd, which I don't regret, but I am glad that I found a second copy. So Moyd, if you have that copy, that one's worth hanging on to. The rest of these, along with all the other ones, I'm putting up for sale on Whatnot. It's an auction app. It's a live auction. You can just click a button and bid on stuff. It's going to be this Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and there will be a link to that down in the description. I've had a handful of these science fiction book auctions, and they're my favorite thing to do in all of reselling, and that's what I do full-time. I don't have a full-time job. I just make these videos, and I sell things online on eBay and stuff, and mostly clothing, but I've been doing these book auctions more and more, and there's a little community going of regulars, and we have some great rapport, and I know that I'm just, whatever, sounding like a hype man for myself, but it's my favorite thing in the world to do at this point, so I hope that you'll join me. Tarzan and the City of Gold by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This looks more like a Conan book, really. Just murked a lion. Space Lords by Cordwainer Smith. This is a short story collection. I'm going to let this go because, again, I'm trying to limit the number of books that I onboard for my own collection, and because I think a lot of this is redundant with the Best of Cordwainer Smith collection that I did keep for myself. Cordwainer Smith, among my very favorite authors. I've read Norstrilia, and in my eyes, he can probably do no wrong. Apparently, his short fiction is also superb. The Starchild Trilogy by Frederick Pohl and Jack Williamson. I have 2 of the individual entries in the trilogy up on the Sci-Fireplace, and I'm waiting for the 3rd, but I'm willing to get rid of this vintage copy in really nice condition. Another copy of The Humanoids by Jack Williamson. This is one of his better known books. There's a little guy trapped in a little bubble. It's a book about robots. It's an interesting premise. I read up on it. It's about robots that follow the the first the prime directive, that's Star Trek. The Asimov, one of Asimov's law, that says you have to protect human beings from undergoing harm, which takes the form of the robots creating this giant nanny state for all of humanity, which renders us all slaves. Kind of a cool premise. Another one of these, not very common at all, Canonical for Leibowitz, is this one has a hole punch in the front, unfortunately. But this is a great vintage copy. I said on the last Whatnot stream, I sold another of this same copy. It looks like a Samuel Delany book to me. Another vintage copy of Children of Dune, Frank Herbert. I really like these covers. Also because my older brother had these vintage copies growing up. I used to look at them. I was always intimidated by them. Frank Herbert. Dune Messiah. I have my own copy. People keep entreating me to read it. I will eventually, I promise. Really good condition. The Golden Apples of the Sun by Bradbury. This great cover. This is a short story collection. This one I was tempted to keep for myself. I was on the fence, but again, I'm erring on the side of not onboarding stuff. Radix by A.A. Atanasio. This sounded to me actually a lot like Dahlgren in spirit. Dahlgren by Delany. It's this big, long, experimental, weird, epic novel. People compare it to Dune, like a more bizarro Dune. It says Dune right on the back. Has won favorable comparisons to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and Frank Herbert's Dune novels. Sounds pretty wild. Was tempted by it. It'll come back to me eventually. This is another one that I thought about keeping for myself. Blood World, with this wild cover and purple page edges. It just looks great. And it's another one with a wild premise. It's a planet ruled by sexual sadists. Reminded me of Clive Barker a little bit. Thought about keeping that one. The Godmakers by Frank Herbert. This has been on the channel. More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon. This is considered one of his masterpieces. Nice vintage cover. The World of Tavs, Patavs. I would not be shocked if this was a first printing, actually. It just has that feel to it. First edition, 1966. There's no number line. Really good condition. This is his first novel, apparently, and supposed to be packed full of ideas. The narrative is clunky, but full of ideas that are cool. Return to Otherness by Henry Kuttner. Someone who is apparently excellent. I have another, actually two short story collections of Kuttner's, so I'm willing to let this one go. Same with this. A Mile Beyond the Moon by Cm Kornbluth. I read the best of Cm Kornbluth, which was curated by Frederick Pohl. And Kornbluth is one of my favorite authors from that period in the 50s. Just had this character that was out of place, out of time, a man out of time. Dark, cynical, kind of almost venomous. An excellent writer, amazingly talented writer, and didn't put out a whole lot of work before he died. He died very young. Great vintage copy of Recalled to Life by Silverberg. This is from his middle period. He published it in the 60s when he wasn't really outputting that much work. He had a big spat of stuff that he put out in the 50s, like late 50s, I think, or 60s, or I don't know. I'm getting my timeline all messed up. 1958, 1972, I don't know. He published it during a time when he wasn't putting out that much work, so I read. But that's supposed to be a great one. I got this amazing UK copy of Hot Sleep by Orson Scott Card. which I guess is an early rendition of the Worthing cycle. This one is called the Worthing Chronicle. I don't know all the details about this. I guess this got retooled into a different work. But this is the earlier version of it. Skirmish, the short fiction of Clifford Simak. I have enough Simak books. He's not known, to me, at least as a short story writer. I know him for his novels. So that was kind of interesting. Awesome copy of Rendezvous with Rama. I have like a more boring mass market, contemporary mass market. So this one looks a little cooler because it's vintage and it's got the cool cover. It can be yours if you wish. The Forever War by Haldeman. This was in my my most recent top 15, or I'm sorry, it's been a long day. It was in my first top 15 video, and the only reason I got bumped off of the most recent top 15 is because I haven't read it since I was, I think, 15 or 16. This is one of the books that made me a science fiction reader. I still remember the details about this book, even all this time later as a 22-year-old. 1974. Second printing, 1976. So this is from 76. Earth Abides. I have this same edition or printing, same paperback, same cover. I know this is one of the ones that people gripe at me for not having read. I will read it eventually. Unfortunately, there's some damage on the cover, but you don't see these vintage copies very much. I got 4 of these black and white Zelazny's. Creatures of Light and Darkness. 9 Princes in Amber, which is the first book in the Amber series. Sign of the Unicorn. And The Hand of Oberon. I think these look neat. I have black and white Dicks also, Philip K. Dicks, that look kind of like this. I wonder if it was the same publishing house. Vintage copy of 1984 by Orwell, of course. Signet classic. This one looks like it had a couple little bits of highlighting in it, unfortunately. I also have another copy of 1984. This is my old copy of Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft's Blood-Curdling Tales of Horror and the Macabre. I gave a handful of science fiction books to a friend of mine who never read them. I think he had them for like 5 or 6 years or something, and he just told me, like, I'm never going to read these, so you can have them back. I may, now that I'm holding this, I've had this since I was... I don't know if that's true. I don't know if this is the copy that I had when I was a teenager or if I got a replacement copy in college. I think this is from college. This dates back from college. Yeah, because it's from a used bookstore. I don't know. I might sell this. I might keep this. I'm getting even more books tomorrow, and there's vintage Lovecraft among them that I will put up for sale. This big copy of Anathem by Neil Stevenson. Paperback, trade paperback of Downward to the Earth, which I have in a book club vintage hardcover, so I'm willing to get rid of this. This is supposed to be one of his masterpieces. I may read this within the next 5 books that I read. Childhood's End by Clark. I've always loved this cover with the purple and pink. I think that's a great cover. Great book, too. I found another old book club edition. I think it's book club. Yeah, it's got to be book club. Of The World Inside by Silverberg, which is still my favorite Silverberg that I've read. This is another one that was really formative, that really made me a science fiction reader. I found it at a Goodwill bookstore and just picked it up because I had a friend who told me that I could not go wrong with Silverberg. I had read The Kingdom of the Wall before this one, but this is the one that really cemented Silverberg in my mind as like a great, someone that I wanted to read more of. I think I read it in one sitting. I love it. And then last one is this vintage copy of Yops, which maybe is a Walt Whitman reference. I don't know. I just thought it was like awesome. This vintage, I think fantasy. It's got poetry in it. Yeah, it's a book of poetry. The cool little gnome guy riding a Pegasus. I'm gonna have like 6 times more books than this up for sale. So it is Wednesday at 5. Just download the app, it's free. If you don't want to buy anything, if you just want to, it'll be like a big book haul, and I'll talk about the books. So even if you just want to come watch, I think it'll be fun. You don't have to buy anything from me if you don't want. Anyway, I'll see you there, and thanks for watching.